Steadiness. Now, my definition of steadiness is that it is the quality in a dog that keeps him sitting still and quiet as birds fall, and doing so until commanded to retrieve as the handler dictates. Remember, steadiness is a process, not a step or a sudden event. Initially, a good approach is to honor for other dogs rather than online for your own dog's marks. If possible, run multiple honor marking setups. Decide ahead of time what your steadiness standard is, and then uphold it. To move toward a formal standard for steadiness, we must structure our developing dog's life so that he comes to understand the boundaries of what we want him to observe. The steadiness standard is really just your sit standard in the presence of marks. Marks, of course, are what they want most. It's the maximum distraction, so it's much harder for them to obey. The honoring process. What I'm about to describe is not a drill, but a process for making the honoring function an effective and beneficial act. The process of honoring, whether for one dog or many, is to avoid rewarding unsteadiness with a mark. That is to say that if your pup violates the steadiness standard, he does not get his bird or bumper. Now, when you think about all the things dogs do on the line that violate a good steadiness standard, you must realize that they do these things because they're good dogs. They want that retrieve so badly that they break the basic standards of their training. That's what happens when a dog breaks. He's breaking sit. We simply need to understand that and use it to our benefit. Step 1, the passive honor. The passive honor is what I've been discussing about taking your young dog out when he's not actually online to retrieve. It's less stressful for an eager but inexperienced pup. Although we have been physically holding our little pups a little longer and a little longer over time before releasing them to retrieve, we're now going to get formal about creating a steadiness standard and conveying that to the dogs fairly. Get yourself in the presence of as many other dog and handler teams as you can while a marking setup is being run. Physically position you and your dog in such a way that your pup can see all the action without interfering with the running dog. Again, this would be back from the line a bit and off to one side so your pup won't interfere with the running dogs, and so the amount of distraction produced by falling marks is somewhat reduced. Now, when you've arrived at that position, command your dog to sit. All you will do in that position is to enforce the sit standard. At first, you ought to do that on a leash and impose that with your heeling stick. Now, that sit standard is to sit promptly, squarely, and quietly, and to do so with imposed stability. That is to say that this standard now needs to be conveyed as his standard for sit at all times, even when confronted with the high distraction of falling marks and other dogs retrieving. I think it's better to have other dogs involved to convey a couple of important messages to your dog. One is that not all birds are yours. The other is obviously that sit means sit, even when distractions are present. If the dog is beginning to require fewer corrections to maintain a good sit standard, take him up to the line and let him have a mark or two. That mark he will soon come to perceive as a reward for a good sit standard. Perhaps you train all by yourself or without a launcher. However you do it, the procedure is the same. Sit means sit. Your pup will be rewarded with retrieves that he was steady for. You've worked hard and fairly to build this standard. Now it's payday.